All right, I invite you to pull your message notes out right now. We're going to jump into this series that we're wrapping up today that we titled Next. And the concept is every single one of us have a next step in our spiritual journey. I've been a pastor now for over 20 years. I have a next step in my spiritual journey, and you have a next step in your spiritual journey. Now, what I want to do today, if you've missed any of the previous weeks, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to the previous weeks. Week 1, we talked about our baby steps, which are very critical to take as a Christian. Then we talked about being aligned with our purpose. God created all of us with a purpose, and how do we live in alignment with that purpose? And then last week, we talked about our thought life and controlling our thought life. Today, I want to give you probably the biggest key at being successful at everything else. So if you want to be successful at the previous messages, the truth we're going to look at today is really biblically the biggest key to being successful at everything else. And honestly, this has shaped you more than you probably realize. This truth has made a bigger impact on your life than I think you could possibly truly understand. And so here's the concept today. The title is Choose My Relationships Carefully. I need to choose who I surround myself with. I need to be very careful about who I allow into my inner circle. Because you are who you are right now, and you are where you are right now, largely because of the people that have been in your life, good or bad. I mean, think about it in big picture perspective. Like, if you were born to, parents living in poverty in some third world village, will you really be living in the home you're living at right now? Probably not. Probably not. And so you are largely who you are because of the people that you've either been stuck with, the people that, have been in your life, the relationships that you've had, the environments you've been in, largely because of the people in your life, good or bad. So when you think about it, these are absolutely the most important decisions you will ever make. Who you choose to surround yourself with. It's the old adage that we tell teenagers all the time, but it's just as true for every single adult. You show me your friends, I'll show you your future. You show me the people that are speaking into your life, you show me who's in your inner circle, I'll show you what you'll look like in 10 years. I'll show you your future. The wisest person to ever live, King Solomon, in his book Proverbs, says, a mirror reflects a man's face. But if you want to know what he's really like, that's shown by the kind of friends he chooses. You have a choice. You have a choice to make. You decide who you allow into your inner circle. And so what I want to do to begin the message is I want to give you 4 very important choices when it comes to relationships. And then I'm going to make it very, very practical at the end. 4 very, very important choices. Here's the first choice. Nurture my important relationships. Every single one of us have to nurture the important relationships in our life. Because relationships, if you don't work on it, they don't stay healthy. You've got to nurture those relationships. Let me put it like this. If you have a problem right now in your marriage, it's not the marriage's fault. It's the fact that you haven't nurtured the marriage. Blaming the marriage as the problem is about as dumb as saying this fireplace is broken because there's not a fire in it. No, the reason there's not a fire in it is because you didn't put a log in it and you didn't start it on fire. I mean, it's not the fireplace's fault if it doesn't have a fire. It's our fault for not maintaining the fire, not putting a log on the fireplace, not keeping it lit. And if you've ever owned a fireplace, you know that it's a lot of work to maintain a fireplace. Because as soon as you get all comfortable and you get cozied up and you're cuddled up on the couch with your hot chocolate, all of a sudden the fire begins to dwindle. And what do? You got to go back outside into the cold. You got to get all muddy and you got to get another log and you got to bring it back inside and then you got to put it back on the fireplace. It takes work to keep the fire burning. And so many people are saying, well, we just lost the fire in our marriage. No, you haven't put a log on the fire in your marriage. That's what the real problem is. And just because a marriage takes work does not mean it's a bad marriage, and it does not mean you chose the wrong person. Amanda and I, we weren't always good at this. I mean, if you knew our story, it's an absolute miracle we're still married because the first 5 years were a disaster. And then after we got things at least to a place of stability and health and healing and restoration, We realize it takes work to maintain the fire. And really, it wasn't until last year that we started getting very intentional about this. Like, we realized we got to throw a log on the fire every once in a while, or we're not going to stay close. Like, there's got to be some fire and some passion in our marriage for it to work. Some of you need to go home and throw a log on the fire. Like, you need to keep the fire burning in the marriage. And just because it takes work doesn't mean you married the wrong person. And I'm telling you right now, the grass is not greener on the other side. And if it is, the water bill is higher. And you don't want to pay that bill. The truth is, the grass is greener where you decide to water the grass. That's where the grass is green. The fire burns when you throw a log on the fire. And I'll admit, it's harder to start a fire when there is no fire. But it's still possible to light a fire. Choices lead, feelings follow. You may not feel like you're in love anymore, but make the choice and the feeling will follow the choice. We have a marriage and relationship weekend coming up, February 9th and 10th. Matthew and Joanna, our marriage coordinators and directors, are going to be speaking at all services on marriage and relationship. And we're actually going to delay Marriage 2.0, the foundation group, 1 week, so all the other groups start February 3rd. This one will start February 10th because we're going to give you a preview that weekend of what Marriage 2.0 is all about. And I'm telling you, this is going to apply to every single person here because you are either married or want to be married or have a friend that's married. And so everyone is going to get something out of that weekend. So just plan on being here. Plan on being here. And this is why it's so important. Peter says, the end of all things is near. Like, the end is near. And if the end isn't near, your end is still near. Like, we still don't have that much time. 50, 60 years is really not that much time in the scheme of eternity. So Peter says, therefore, be clear-minded and self-controlled so that you can pray. Above all, most important, the number one thing that I can leave with you because the end is near. So if I can only say one thing, my final thought, my closing comments, because the end is coming, above all, love each other deeply. Nurture the important relationships in your life because love covers over a multitude of sins. So nurture my important relationships. Here's the second thing. Restore my broken relationships. Restore my broken relationships. And let me put it like this. The pain of living with a broken relationship will never be as bad as the pain of restoring the broken relationship. And I know you may not be able to because there's two parties involved and the other party may not be willing, but you've got to do your part. You've got to make as much effort as you possibly can. Paul puts it like this: do not repay anyone evil for evil. So if someone's wronged you, if someone's done, broken a relationship, don't pay them back with evil. Don't pay them back with hatred and bitterness and unforgiveness. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you. So do your part in the process. They may not respond. You can't control their response, but as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. See, what that means is forgiveness is a daily decision. Forgiveness is actually so important, Jesus put it in the Lord's Prayer. Now, if you know anything about the Lord's Prayer, the best title for the Lord's Prayer is really not Lord's Prayer. You should actually call it the Everyday Prayer, because it's the best prayer to pray every day. And if you don't know how to pray the Lord's Prayer, you don't memorize it and recite it. That's not how you do it. Get our prayer guide that we gave out during 21 days. There's plenty available at the Info Center. In our prayer guide, we will teach you how to go through the Lord's Prayer. There's 7 key points to the Lord's Prayer, and you just pray each one personally. That's what the Lord's Prayer. And this is such a big deal that Jesus says one of the points is, forgive us, God, as we forgive those who've wronged us. See, the reason I forgive is because I need it so badly. Like, I need forgiveness so badly that I got to forgive others. So oftentimes what I do, like when I get my morning devotion and I spend some time in prayer, is I just decide in the morning I'm going to forgive some people in advance because I know someone's going to make me mad today. I know it's like as long as I'm in my office at home, like no one's going to offend me, but as soon as I go out, as soon as I get in my car, someone's going to cut me off, someone's going to get ugly, someone's going to make hand gestures out the window towards me, and I'm just going to decide now that I'm going to forgive that person because I know it's going to happen. Like, I know someone at work is just going to make me mad, so I'm just going to forgive them in advance because I know it's coming. See, I cannot do what God has called me to do and carry that stuff in my heart. It just doesn't work. Paul says in Colossians, bear with each other. Like, people are going to make you mad, in other words. It's going to happen. Like, we live with humans, and humans are going to make you mad at some point. Forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. And forgive how? As the Lord forgave you. See, this is what makes it easy for me because I need it so badly myself. Like, I need God to forgive me for my life. And so it makes it easy for me to forgive others. Here's the third choice. Sever any harmful relationships. Sever, or at least minimize them. Put them in a box. Get them under check. Put them in control. Sever them. Sever them. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let me just make this clear. I am not talking about your spouse. Like, nobody go home today and say, well, Pastor Aaron said we gotta cut this thing off. It's not healthy. No. That's the one you need to nurture, not sever. I'm talking about, if I can be honest with you, I'm talking about that flirtatious fling you got going on at work. You need to cut it off now. I know you think it's innocent. It's one step away from crossing a line, and you know it. You know it. There are things and people you've allowed in your life, and you know they are not good for you. You know they are not the right influence on your life. And you know you are just a step away from throwing everything away. And you may convince yourself that it's innocent. It is not innocent. And you need to cut it off now. You get another job if you have to. Move out of state if you have to. But you cut that thing off now. You know, in therapy, they have a 0 to 60 rule. Because some of you, you've been being a little too flirtatious on your social media. You've gotten on Facebook and you've reconnected with an old high school flame or old college flame in your life. And you're playing around because you think it's Facebook or you think it's Instagram and it's not that big deal. I'm just kind of catching up and seeing how they're doing. We call it the 0-60 rule in therapy. You know what the 0 to 60 rule is? If you reconnect with an old high school or college flame on social media within 30 days, you will become confused about your marriage. Within 60 days, you'll be trying to find a way to sleep with them. And that's true in almost every case. You need to cut it off. You need to delete the account if you have to. You don't need to check in on them. You don't need to know how they're doing. You cut that thing off now. Sever those harmful relationships. And I'm calling the men of our church. You need to start this year. You need to go home this week and you need to read Proverbs chapter 5, Proverbs chapter 6, and Proverbs chapter 7. Because it deals with this strongly. And it'll tell you, you read Proverbs, those chapters, it'll tell you that everything you have worked for, you'll lose in a second. You go down the wrong path. And while we're on the subject, let's talk about cohabiting for a minute. Some of you may be in the right relationship, but you're doing it the wrong way. And I know we live in a culture that doesn't see anything wrong with it, like we can live together before we're married. No, you can't. That's not healthy for you. That's not good for you. We don't cohabitate as followers of Jesus Christ. Oh, we're saving money. It's more practical for us to do it this way. No, I counseled a couple years ago in our church. Young couple in our church wanted to get married, living together, because that's the way you do it now. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. You're going to go find a couch and live on some, you're going to go find a friend with a couch and you're going to go live on his couch. But we're not getting married for 9 months, then you're going to live on a couch for 9 months. And I told him that very clearly. And I was shocked that he actually did it because not a lot of young people today want to do things God's way. We want to bend the rules for our culture. But he did it. And I'm telling you, they have the most incredible, beautiful marriage. God has blessed them. God has honored them. They had children when it wasn't supposed to be possible for them to have children. I mean, God has honored them and blessed them, and he has not stopped thanking me for telling him to do that. He said that was the greatest thing anyone has ever told me to do. I didn't like it at first, but I did it, and it made the biggest difference on who we are and what we become. Because I just told him, look, if you can't honor her now, you're not going to honor her after you get married. You know, we live in this culture. I don't need, a wedding certificate to say that I love you. What we're really saying is I'm not willing to get rid of all my other options. That's what we're really saying by not going into covenant and by not doing it God's way. So we need to sever. And I'm serious about this area. One of the things I do, and this may be a little dark and morbid for you, but one of the things I do personally on a monthly basis, and I would encourage you to do this, is I rehearse the consequences of my sin. I sit down at least once a month and I rehearse in my mind what it would be like if I had to go home and tell my son, I can't live with you anymore because I've made some mistakes. and we can't be together as a family anymore. I think through what it would be like if I have to stood on this stage and say, I can't be your pastor anymore because I've disqualified myself. I'm telling you, it gives me a holy fear. It gives me a holy fear to live, a very healthy, holy fear to live for God. King Solomon again says, he who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. Some of you guys, you've been hanging out with the boys club, and they're doing things, and you're thinking, well, I'm not gonna do all that. I'm just gonna hang out with them. No. They're gonna pull you down. You hang out with the wrong people, you're gonna suffer harm. You can't go hanging out with the boys clubs anymore. And you know what I'm talking about. Here's the way the New Testament puts it. Don't be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. You think you're going to pull them up? You think you're going to win them to Christ, hanging out in certain settings with them? No, they're going to pull you down. They're going to corrupt you. You got to sever the harmful relationships, or at least minimize them in your life. And then this fourth choice is what actually makes the other three easier to do. Like this fourth one will give you the power to do the other three, and that's initiate some meaningful relationships. You need to start the right relationships. You need to surround yourself with the right people in your life. You need to choose to put the right people in your inner circle. Like I know so many people, they want a mentor in their life, but they never take a step to get one. And we looked at this verse every single weekend because it's so important to next steps. And again, this whole message today is one of the most important things we can do for next steps. But again, Hebrews 10 says, let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing. So the Bible says our default is to give up meeting together, especially for men. Like for men, we'd rather get so busy that we really don't want to get connected. We really don't want to be around with people. We really don't want people knowing our business and knowing what's going on. And so we get in this habit of not meeting together. Well, we got to make some effort. We got to make some effort to get together. So let me give you 4 practical relationship steps. 4 steps to make it, 4 very practical steps to build the right, meaningful relationships in your life. Here's the first one. I need to develop my relationship with, quote unquote, my church. My church. And every single person here needs to be able to say that. Everyone. And it does not have to be this church. I'm telling you right now, it does not have to be Coastline. There are great churches in this community, but for your sake and for your journey and for your faith, you need to go somewhere that you can say, this is my church. I belong. I'm passionate about the vision. I'm passionate about my church. I love where we're going as a church family. You need that for your journey. There are 30 verses alone in the New Testament that you cannot fulfill if you're not passionately committed to a church, if you don't belong somewhere. Paul puts it like this: you are members of God's very own family. That's the body of Christ at large. But not only that, you also belong in God's household with every other Christian. So we're part of a Christian community, but each of us is called to be a part of a house. Just like there's a city that you live in, and you have an identity for being from a city, but we all live in different houses with different families, and that's the same way Christianity works. We're part of this broad community, but we each have a house that we belong to, and we have responsibility in, and we have ownership for, and it's a community. And look, I realize in a church of our size, there's a lot of people who are just attending church. And let me just say, that's fine. You're welcome to attend. You just can't stay there. And I want to give you permission to take your time. Because I know some of you are coming into our church from bad Christian experiences or bad church experiences or just kind of weird ideas of what it's all about. And I want you to know we're not in a rush. You can take your time. You can sit here every week and you don't have to give and you don't have to serve and you don't have to get involved at all. Just sit, refresh, relax, heal. But at some point, you're going to have to take a step to belong. You're going to have to take a step for your journey, for your sake, to get committed. And you're going to do better when you belong. I mean, think about it. You get the best out of every relationship when you belong. Like there was a point in Amanda and I relationship when we were just attenders. Like I'd pick her up and then I'd drop her off. But then there came a moment where we belonged, where we made covenant to each other. And can I say there's benefits with membership? And if you're getting benefits without membership, you need to stop. Because that's not God's best for you. and it's not going to work, and it's going to hurt your future. It's going to do more damage to you than anyone else. And look, so I get the fact that many people are figuring it out. Like, you're checking us out, you're attending, you're trying to figure out if this is the right fit. So let me give you the best thing you can do to kick the tires. Next week, we have step 1 of our growth track at 9:30. Join us next week. This is the class where you can really kick the tires and figure out if this is the church for you. You know, I'm gonna in that class, I'm gonna teach you how we spend our money and what our financial accountability is. I'm gonna talk about our government and who I report to, what the vision is, how we do things around here. It is the class for you to kick the tires and decide whether or not this is the right church fit for you. Because as a church, we're looking for partners. We're looking for owners. We're looking for people who have a level of ownership. Because I don't know if you've realized this or not, but these are actually your chairs, not mine. Like, you paid for them. So, like, if you wanted to take one home, we can't stop you because you paid for it. Like, I hope you leave it because, you know, we appreciate using them every week. But you paid for all of this. It's all yours. Like, you paid for the cameras, and you paid for the stage, and you paid for the kid. Like, all of that is yours. We're just asking people to take more of a focused level of ownership and partnership of what's already yours. Here's the second thing. Develop my relationship with godly friends. Again, I need to be very strategic about who I allow into my inner circle. And I need to make sure I include godly friends in my inner circle. Well, how do I know that they're godly? Well, being around them makes you more godly. When you hang out with that friend group, it makes you love God more. It makes you hungry for God. It makes you want to read the Bible more. It makes you want to be closer to God. You get around the right people, and they're just naturally going to encourage you into the right way. They're going to build you up, not pull you down. And this is the New Testament pattern of church. Like, you study the Bible, when you look at the New Testament, they had Sunday worship. They would come together just like this on a Sunday, and they would worship God, and they would sing, and they would study the Bible, but then they had house-to-house ministry during the week. They met in homes during the week. And when you look at the New Testament, real life change was happening in small groups in homes throughout the week. They didn't just show up to church once a week, but they met in homes. Look what Paul says. He says, all the believers met together constantly and shared everything with each other. They met together. They didn't just meet once a week to sing a bunch of songs and stand in a crowd and learn the Bible. No, they met constantly. They met house to house. They shared with one another. Let me give you the secret to our small groups. The secret to our small groups, like the goal, if you really want to know what we're trying to accomplish, is we want you to get to a place of comfort where you're willing to share what's really going on in your life. And I know what the fear is, because I used to have the fear. I was afraid that if people really knew what was inside here, they wouldn't like me. If people really knew what was going on in my heart and going on in my life, they'd be ashamed of me. They would shun me. They would reject me. You know what I discovered? When you get honest with people about what's really going on, you discover very quickly you're not the only one. You're going to find out in your group, when you start to get honest, that there's other people in that group that say, you know what, I went through the same thing. Let me share with you how God helped me through it. And they're not going to reject you. They're actually going to love you more, and they're going to pull you in closer when you start to get honest and you start to get... And that's the goal of our groups is not the curriculum, it's the relationship. We want you getting close to each other so that you can get real, so that real life change can begin to take place. And I know it's a little awkward to try to get to know people that you don't know. Let me say this as lovingly as I can. Get over it. Like, you need this for you. Like, this is the best thing you can do for your journey. Here's the third thing. Develop my relationship with a team. Develop my relationship with a team. Right now as a church, we have over 30 to 40% of people who attend our church serving on a team every weekend. Over 30 to 40% of people serving on a team every weekend. And you don't just get to accomplish a lot together, but you have a lot of fun too. I go out and I see the teams, and they're laughing, they're having a good time, they're supporting one another. It's fun. I mean, remember high school when you were on a team, whether it was band or football or remember how enjoyable it was to be on a team together? To have people that expected you. You had a part to play, you had a role to play, and you counted on others and they counted on you. There was just so much joy in being on a team. You're never going to do anything significant in your life alone. Solomon said this. He says, there was a man who was all alone. He wasn't on a team. He wasn't in a small group. He had neither son nor brother. And as a result, there was no end to his toil. I mean, he was just always miserable because he was just facing life alone. And yet, even when he made money, he wasn't happy with it. It didn't make him feel good. He was successful, but it did nothing for him because he was all alone. It goes on to say two are better than one. See, it's better to be on a team. It's better to be in a group. Why? Because you get a good return for the labor. See, when you serve by yourself, you can only do so much, but when you serve on a team, you'll accomplish far more than you could ever done on your own. So at some point, come through the growth track with us and find your place on a team. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. And let me just say this. Our church is doing really well without you. But we would do so much better with you. We'd do so much better with you. Because as good as we're doing with the 30 to 40%, we're still not reaching our potential. So can you imagine how much more we could do with you on the team? How much better we would be with you. I mean, we're doing well without you, but we would be so much better with you. And so I invite you to find a team and serve. Make a difference with your life. You'll love it. And then here's the last and most important relationship. Develop my relationship with God. And I want you to take a moment. I want you to circle the word develop there. Because you got to have some initiative on this. You have to make a choice on this. Have you ever imagined what your life would look like if you went all in? Have you ever imagined what your faith journey would look like if you truly went all in? You see, one of the things I've noticed is after 20 years of being a pastor, what I've noticed is there's a lot of people who try God. Like, I'm trying God. I'm going to try and see if this thing works. That's about as dumb as me saying I'm going to try out and be in the NBA for a little while. I'm going to try the NBA for a little while. You don't go try to be in the NBA. You either commit your entire life to the process or you don't, but you don't try it out. You got to give your heart and soul if you want something like that. And there's so many people who are trying God, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I mean, you'll never get a good payout with anything in life unless you pour your heart and soul into it. And unfortunately, what a lot of people want, and I see this often, is they just want fire insurance. Just sell me some fire insurance, Pastor. That's all I really want. Just tell me what I have to do to get into heaven. Like, I really don't want to go too overboard with this Christianity thing. Like, I don't want to be one of those people. You know, I just don't like the thought of burning in hell forever. So just tell me what I have to do to get in. That's really all I want. Like, I'm not going overboard. I want to do enough to just get in. Just what are the bare minimums? Like, what's the bare minimum requirement to get in the front door? Can I be honest with you? God does not sell fire insurance. Jesus gave you all of his life, not part of his life, and all he wants in return is all of your life. He's not looking for some of you. He's not looking for part of you. He's looking for all of you. Let me put it like this. 99% of your life committed to Jesus is not good enough for him. He won't accept it. It won't work. See, the problem is some of you sit here week after week after week and you look around the room and you know that this is working for people in the room because you see it in their eyes. Like you see it in them like, man, it's working for him. Why is it working for him? I've been here for a year now and it's just not working for me. Like, why is it not working? Like, I'm here. I mean, I'm listening to the message every week. You haven't gone all in. Christianity only works when you go all in. You can't test drive it. You can't try it out. Look at the way God says it in Jeremiah. God, speaking through the prophet Jeremiah, says, if you look for me, like if you want to figure out whether or not Christianity works, you've got to do it half-heartedly. No, it says wholeheartedly. 100%, all in. And when you do it wholeheartedly, then you'll find me. Then you'll figure out it actually works. It doesn't work if you don't go wholeheartedly. You've been sitting here, but you haven't gone all in. That's why it's not, of course it's not working for you. You haven't gone all in. You'll only experience what I'm talking about until you go at 100%, until you give it all. until you lay it all down. And that's why we like to begin every year with what we call the 1-year challenge. Take the 1-year challenge. What is the 1-year challenge? Go all in for 1 year of your life. Give us 1 year of your life. Go all in. Run the game plan exactly the way we prescribe it. Get involved in a small group. Go through the growth track. Find a place on a dream team. Read the 1-year Bible. Take freedom for a semester. Give us 1 year of your life. Learn how to pray with us. Give us 1 year of your life. And if your life isn't radically better at the end of a year, you come find me and I'll leave the church with you and we'll go somewhere else because we don't know what we're doing. I've yet to have anybody take me up on that offer. Typically what happens is it takes 3 to 4 months and people will track me down and say, I went all in. It didn't take a year. Like, I cannot even begin to describe how radically different. I mean, we had a guy who sat here for 4 years, frustrated, because he could not figure out why it wasn't working for him. And he sat here week after week after week after week. And then 1 year he said, okay, I'll go the 1-year challenge. I'll do it. And his life has been forever changed. Like, he now gets it. He's like, it works. It works. But he didn't figure that out till he went all in. Would you close your eyes with me? Father, in the name of Jesus, God, I pray today, Lord, that you begin to work on our hearts, Lord, that we will choose our relationships carefully, and we'll make the right choices we'll nurture those important relationships, we'll sever the harmful ones, we'll restore the broken ones, and God, we will initiate the right ones, the meaningful ones. And Lord, we will give you our life wholeheartedly. We're not going to hold any part of our heart back, but you can have our whole heart and our whole life. In the name of Jesus, amen. Would you stand with me? We're going to close with one song of worship. As we close, our prayer team is going to be available today. And they're available for a number of people. If you're here today and you want to do the 1-year challenge, I want you to come, as your first step of the 1-year challenge, I want you to come down and let somebody on our prayer team pray for you. And they're just going to pray a prayer blessing on you for the 1-year challenge. And they'll answer any questions you have, and they'll pray for you. If you're here today and you want to give your life to Jesus, maybe you're not a Christ follower, but you're here today, you know what? I want to give Jesus my whole heart. I want to find God today. I'm tired of being spiritually lost. I want to be spiritually found. I want to have a home with God. And you know who you are because the entire service, God's been tugging at your heart. And you can't really explain the sensation. I liken it to, like, you got these little fish hooks attached to your heart and somebody's like gently tugging on the string. That's God. He wants to be a part of your life. Give your life to Him today. It'll be the best decision you'll ever make. Our prayer team would love to pray with you about that. If you filled out a prayer card today, bring it forward. Before you turn it in, bring it forward to somebody on the prayer team and let them pray over that card with you personally before you turn it in. Or if anything else is going on, they're available to pray with you today. We're going to close with one song. They'll be available during and after this song.